As architecture begins to outgrow art in the use of iron construction, so does painting in the panoramas. The climax of the preparation of panoramas coincides with the appearance of the arcades. There were tireless exertions of technical skill to make panoramas the scenes of a perfect imitation of nature. The attempt was made to reproduce the changing time of day in the landscape, the rising of the moon, the rushing of waterfalls. David advises his pupils to draw from nature in the panoramas. In striving to produce deceptively lifelike changes in their presentation of nature, the panoramas point ahead, beyond photography, to films and sound films. Contemporary to the panoramas is a panoramic literature. Le Livre des 101, Les Français peints par eux-mêmes, Les Diables et Paris, La Grande Vie are part of it. In these books is being prepared the collective literary work for which, in the 30s, Girardin created an arena in the feuilleton. They consist of isolated sketches, the anecdotal form of which corresponds to the plastic foreground of the panorama and their informational base to its painted background. This literature is also panoramic in a social sense, for the last time the worker appears, outside his class, as a trimming for an idol. The panoramas, which declare a revolution in the relation of art to technology, are at the same time an expression of a new feeling about life. The city dweller, whose political superiority over the country is expressed in many ways in the course of the century, attempts to introduce the countryside into the city. In the panoramas, the city dilates to become landscape, as it does in a subtler way for the flaneur. Daguerre is a pupil of the panorama painter Prévost, whose establishment is situated in the Passage des Panoramas. Description of the panoramas by Prévost and Daguerre. In 1839, Daguerre's panorama burns down. In the same year, he announces the invention of the daguerreotype. Arago introduces photography in an official speech. He indicates its place in the history of technology. He prophesies its scientific application. Artists, on the other hand, begin to debate its artistic value. Photography leads to the annihilation of the great profession of the portrait miniaturist. This happens not only for economic reasons. Artistically, early photographs were superior to portrait miniatures. The technical reason lies in the long exposure time, which demanded utmost concentration by the subject being portrayed. The social reason lies in the circumstance that the first photographers belonged to the avant-garde and drew their clientele for the most part from it. Nadar's advance over his professional colleagues is characterized by his undertaking to take photographs in the sewers of Paris. This is the first time that the lens is given the task of making discoveries. Its importance becomes greater the more questionable. In face of the new technical and social reality, the subjective element of painting and graphic information is felt to be. The World Exhibition of 1855 presents for the first time a special display of photography. In the same year, Wiertz publishes his major article on photography in which he assigns it the task of philosophically enlightening painting. He understood this enlightenment as his own paintings show, in a political sense. Wiertz can thus be described as the first to have demanded, if not foreseen, montage as a propagandistic application of photography. With the increasing scope of communication systems, the significance of painting in imparting information is reduced. It begins, in reaction against photography, to stress the color elements in pictures. When Impressionism gives way to Cubism, painting has created for itself a further domain into which photography cannot, for the time being, follow. Photography, for its part, has, since the middle of the century, enormously expanded the scope of the commodity trade by putting on the market in unlimited quantities figures, landscapes, events that have either not been saleable at all, or have been available only as pictures for single customers. To increase turnover, it renewed its objects through fashionable changes in photographic technique that determined the later history of photography.